We're in Madison, Wisconsin, Jason.
I am very excited.
Yeah, when's the last time you were in Madison, Wisconsin?
Last time I was in Madison, Wisconsin was the summer of 2014, I believe.
2014.
That's a good bit ago.
When was the last time you performed in Madison, Wisconsin?
It would be the summer of 2004.
2004?
That's not true. We did a concert before I was injured in 2005, so probably sometime in the winters of 2005.
Wow. And so this will drop on the day of move-ins, but we are 24 hours-ish away from the full core.
It's very exciting.
The full core moving in. We've released the show video, the show release for the 2021 show, Between the Lines.
Yeah,
we're very excited about this. One of the questions I think people might have is any part of the 2020 show in this 2021 show?
So nothing that we're doing this summer is from 2020. We did a full refresh with permission from our core director to executive director to do a full new production. So everything that we did for the 2020 summer was abandoned.
Okay, so I'm sure a lot of people might want to say, well, why don't you tell us about the 2020 show?
I'm fully prepared to tell you everything that you want to know.
All right. Did we have a title of the 2020 show?
So the 2020 show was entitled Liminal Space.
Liminal Space.
Yeah. Now, actually, there was talking with Chris Kodnick, the executive director. He thought, from a branding purpose, we should actually limit it to liminal. Liminal or liminal space is the period of your life when you're going through a change. So if you are doing one thing and you're doing another thing, or anything is changing, liminal space is the space that change actually occurs. And that was the progression of the show, like physically, musically, and visually, all the things that we were going to do. The idea of the show is actually going to be more of a musical transformation, going from our past and some bringing up some things that we had done before, and then into the future, like doing really new modern things. Even the way that we looked, and it wasn't a metaphor for anything, it was just, we were using that as a crux for aesthetic development, musical development.
You mentioned music, and we did release composers, right?
We did.
We said, we did mention Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
Did we say, gosh, I forgot all the names that we released.
Okay, well, so that's interesting you say that. So in the summer, when everything ended for COVID, we actually released one of our arrangements, and we titled it Project 83.
Project 83, because of what?
Well, it was the 83rd version of the Madison Scouts. So Project 83 we released the Strawberry Soup arrangement, was going to be the very middle of the production. But the show started out with, the core was going to be wearing all white, and the way that the costume, Greg Lugola designed a beautiful costume for the core, and the core was going to be in a white costume that had digitally printed elements from all the Madison Scouts uniforms, basically of all time. And then the color guard was going to be in that same type of costume, but in red. And it was going to be a really, really neat aesthetic, but we were kind of starting out like we were ghosts of the past. And so the beginning of the show actually started out with the core singing You'll Never Walk Alone.
The core song.
The core song. And then throughout the field, you're going to have all these vignettes of different Madison Scout songs, like Memory, and we started out with the famous John Shipper trumpet solo, and that progressed into a huge impact. And as that's the past, and not the past as in like we're looking towards the past, it's just that's where we came from, and then the music progressed into more modern music as we went through the production.
you remember how many tunes? Because I'm sure our executive director, Chris Comnick, remembers what the copyright bill was going to be like for that
I will tell you, it was a funny story. When we had our very first design meeting, Chris Comnick attended with us, and he really encouraged us to go after it and think big. And so we put together this really cool first minute of the show, and it was probably the most expensive minute in Madison Scouts history from a rights perspective. So I think when we decided to go to a new show, this summer's show, and I know that you know this as a composer arranger, is all public domain.
Right.
So we're able to use all the music that we have, and everyone's going to be able to see it. There's no rights or anything that we need to obtain.
Yeah.
The 2020 show was the opposite of that.
Correct.
Yeah, so I don't remember a number, but I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 songs.
It was about 10 different Madison Scouts staples. You know, Ice Castles was in there. Memory, Jesus Christ Superstar was a little bit. And then we climaxed with the favorite. Malagueña, that's right.
Not the Malagueña that we're playing this summer.
We're not playing that version this summer?
We're playing a different Malagueña.
That's true, that's true.
And there's no W in Malagueña.
There's no W Malagueña except for in 1988, as we were told.
Yeah.
So we get into this big impact of Malagueña. It's a celebration of Madison Scouts tradition of old.
And remember, like, you know, the way that the costume was designed, Greg, so the core was this full white costume, but it almost looked like a shadow of itself. Like all the details were in gray, so it almost looked like if you imagine a core full of ghosts, and it was like the past. And so the top of the costume is actually going to peel away through the production very easily. So the end of the production, we would be wearing a modern version of what we wanted the core to look like, but not necessarily because that's where we're going. It's just that was the visual progression of the show. So the second production was It's a Man's World. And it was going to be basically a sampled vocalist against a trombone solo. It was going to be basically a huge guard feature. It was going to feature the guard primarily on Dance and Weapon, which is going to be great. So I think for us, we were looking more to have a really inclusive repertoire, and I think that's one of the reasons that we went that angle. The guard is primarily female. This summer, we're going to have 29 females in the color guard.
Oh, wow.
So, are we highlighting that we're inclusive and look, we have girls now? Maybe a little bit, but I don't know that we're like trying to make a show based on the inclusiveness. We just wanted to make sure that we used all of the tools in our toolbox, if that makes sense. All the crayons in our crayon box.
So we released Strawberry Soup as part of our first Mad You last summer by composer Don Ellis, which is a Madison Scouts staple.
Right.
That was the first show I ever saw, 1993, Strawberry Soup. So it was me doing my best Scott Borma.
Yeah, Chris Comnick would want you to go back to the 80s
well,
version.
He wants the 80s version. He also would want me to rewrite the ending.
So
somewhere.
Yeah, so it's really interesting is that the Strawberry Soup was actually ended up being the closer.
Right.
It started being the closer, but we removed it. Actually, you did, because we felt like Alfonso Muscandunder was a better end to the modern language that we wanted. But Strawberry Soup was where most of our content was going to be, both visually and musically, especially also introducing the modern percussion writing that Matt Hahn and Ryan Ellis brought to the team.
Yeah.
Really, do a lot of great work in WGI. We wanted to have that flavor in the show.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of exposure in the percussion team, a lot of exposure in the battery, a lot of exposure in the brass book too.
Yeah.
So we definitely took a modern take on that tune, but we also, that's one of both of our favorite things. So it was almost like we had a design meeting. If we did something that was Madison-esque, we decided that was what we wanted to do.
Yeah, it's a great tune.
Right.
Even with the ending, as it were.
Yeah, and I like the ending,
I like the
especially
ending
with the original rim shots before the last note.
Don't.
Yeah, exactly. Chris Comnick, not a fan. That's okay.
And so you mentioned what is my favorite part, and I think it's your favorite part. It might be the best thing that I had done was the Billie Eilish Part 4, the combination of Lovely and When the Party's Over. And can we play that in an encore at some point?
Well, here's the thing is, and that was the heartbreaking thing because culturally at the time she had just won all those Grammys.
Yeah.
And everything, I think everyone expected us to play bad guy.
Correct.
But we felt like that tune was going to be a really good musical aesthetic for where we were going. And the moment, what was going to happen is we were going to have all of these props lined up on the field in a grid, and all of the fabric was going to come off 3 of the sides, leaving a transparent layer that was like see-through, and then the whole field was going to flood of people. So we're going to play this ballad. It's going to be a really emotional moment, and then basically the core was going to disappear, and you were going to have these props with images on them that looked like ghosts standing on the field, and that was going to kick off the closer. The arrangement's just gorgeous. It's going to be a really, really neat moment.
I'm so mad. And you're right. I mean, that was the summer of Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
Then the pandemic happened, and she's got a new album coming up, but she's not at the height that she was back then.
It wasn't like, because she went from nowhere to
it would be Driver's License this summer, right?
And I think that might be worked into one of our shows at some point, but we didn't feel like pulling that off the shelf and playing it this summer was going to be right for what we wanted. Yeah. We wanted the membership experience this summer to be, a celebration of like getting through this 100-year pandemic. And I think the flavor of what we've brought to the field in 2021 is modern and awesome and fun, but it's very different than what we were planning to do in 2020.
So we get to part 5, which is the closer, which we had no percussion written for that. We had barely I don't know that we even had anything of the closer written brass-wise.
We didn't have anything. Really.
I just had sketches of it, and so we have 80% of the show done.
Right.
So we get to this closer that no one got to see, and I think Josh Wendt, the visual coordinator, he's the one that suggested that tune originally.
Todd Turgey's tune.
Todd Turgey?
Yeah.
Maybe it's Terhay.
Terhay? I'm not sure.
We're not from that country.
Yeah.
But that was going to be a blast. It was going to be. It was going to be a great song.
So at that point, the whole core was going to have the complete transformation of shedding the uniform. There was going to be a very new look that Greg Magola gave to us, which was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And we were going to basically do. It was going to be very WGI inspired drill. Noah Bellamy, our visual designer, has a great presence in WGI. Has designed for Infinity for a long time and does with a lot of other groups.
Yeah.
And they were him and Josh Wendt were going to do a lot of visual-based production in terms of how we got into the end of the show. So, the props were going to motivate, and we had some different ideas, which I'll kind of keep private for now. But it's going to be a really neat moment, and then we were going to bring it all home to the end of the show. That production was only going to be about a minute and a half.
Yeah.
But it was going to be really fun and forward. And that tune, if you go on Spotify and listen to anything Todd Turgey, it's great. It's Alfonso
awesome.
Muscadunder.
Alfonso Muscadunder. Yes, a lot of the internet assumed it was going to be that tune. Wrongly assumed bad guy.
Yeah.
But
that's okay. It was great. But I thought there's a lot of cool things about it. It was going to be very challenging. In our excitement as a young design team, we bit off a really big challenge because we were going to be using these 24 props that had a lot of fabric layers that came in and off of them, and they were going to move around the field. They were going to have transparent fabric, colored fabric, and now that I look back on it, I honestly think we dodged a bullet a little bit. I know that the staff was totally up for it. We could have done it.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that you think you're invincible when you get to do something, and when I was reflective as we went into the season with the pandemic and all of those things, I just wanted to ensure that the decisions we made this year didn't encumber the membership experience so much. So we're planning on doing this summer is going to be a little bit less of that. There is some aesthetic development that we have, but those props, it was going to be a tough challenge. So in some ways, I'm a little relieved. And when we looked back at that 2020 show to decide if we wanted to do it this summer, two big things. Number one, I wanted to ensure that the membership were set up to be successful in their performance. I also wanted to ensure that the design team's been together for a whole other year, so I knew that we could probably collaborate and coordinate a production that was better put together. And I think what we've done this summer is actually at a higher level than what we did last summer. So especially from a coordination standpoint.
So that was Project 83. Were they going to wear Aussies?
They were not going to wear Aussies. We actually talked about them wearing Aussies at the beginning of the show and then shedding them. But at that point, we had really made a lot of decisions of different aesthetic things to keep up with. And, with the way that the uniform progressed, we just wanted to ensure that we wanted the kids' faces to be present. That's kind of the direction of the activity right now. We are wearing Aussies this summer.
In Project 84.
In Project 84 and Between the Lines, but we were not wearing Aussies last summer.
Were we wearing spats last summer?
We were not wearing spats.
Were we wearing white pants with a stripe down the side?
No stripe, white pants, white top, and then the guard was going to be in all red.
Cool. So I guess all that's left to do is see you at all the shows.
Yeah,
MadisonScouts.org.
Yeah, well, one of the things I'd like to bring out is we are going to do a live stream premiere on,
That's right,
on July 24th.
July 24th.
It's going to be on all of our social media channels and everything. We're actually going to do the show. We have some guest appearances. We're really, really excited. Scott Borma is going to be joining us and doing a surprise.
Scotty B?
Scotty B. He's going to come out and he's going to take the core through Never Walk Alone and that performance, which is really exciting.
It's going to be great.
He has such a historic place in the organization. And a lot of people don't know this, but you have leaned on him through the arranging process.
I have, yes.
He's been able to give us some feedback and help us with that process, just to ensure that there's consistency for the brand and sound of the Madison Scouts.
Correct.
It's going to be great, and there's a lot of other tips and tricks up our sleeve for that live performance. You want to check that out on July 24th.
July 24th. Yeah, if you're going to steal from the best. And I just told Scott, hey, I'm stealing from you. Might as well just help me steal from you.
So we're excited about the core, getting to learn from him and getting to him plugged into the culture that we have going on the drum floor right now.
So, as I would say, we'll see you this summer Between the Lines. And as Chris would say, keep calm and walk on.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah, good shoe to you.